The weather can't seem to make its mind up today. So awkward with this exhaust manifold. Oh, dropped it. An oily mess. There's a lot of oil around here. I've got the bike carbs on the workbench, which doubles as a dinner table. Changed my mind, decided to send it. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and today I'm turning my attention back to the SD170 lump that I recently fitted to Maude. Tomorrow, Esther, my Mk2 Escort, is going in for a repair, and I'm going to be passing by and visiting another YouTuber. And the day after that, I'm going to a car meet. And the day after that, I've got to go back to work after having this week off. So I need to make today count. Now, the weather can't seem to make its mind up today. So I'm cracking on with this inside my dad's garage. And the first thing I'm going to do today is replace the cam belt. I've got this Gates belt from Lloyd's Motor Spares in South Harrow. I also picked up a brand new water pump. I already had a really low mileage cam belt tensioner in my garage. I bought this from Ford for 120 quid, and it was only on Esther for one dyno session, I think, because I actually ended up fitting the aftermarket heavy duty one to her. So yeah, that will definitely go again. And I've got this really low mileage idler pulley. Now, I've already made a good head start on the job. I've already whipped out the spark plugs, I've loosened the rocker cover, moved all the HT leads out the way, moved the catch can piping out the way, the VVT solenoid wiring. I've even moved the cam sensor wiring out the way, and obviously removed the fancy cam belt cover at the front, and I've already removed the front cover here, which is also the engine mount when they're fitted to the Focus, and got the alternator belt out the way, alternator idler pulley, etc, etc. So yeah, I've made a decent head start. Now, the actual alternator adjuster bracket, I've actually ground a little bit out of it, and that is just so that I'm able to put a bolt through the cam belt cover and into this little tab here, because the adjuster bracket was in the way. And I thought I may as well give it a quick sand and a paint. That's primer at the moment, and I'm just going to paint it gloss black. Anyway, next thing I need to do is remove that crank pulley down there. I've got my bar and socket attached to it, and it's just leaning on the floor there, and I'm just going to give the starter a quick turn, and that will undo the bolt, and then hopefully I'll be able to just pull the crank pulley off. Just hook the battery back up temporarily. Just put the power on. Don't need the fuel pump or the ECU on for this, and here we go. Simple as that. Just had another downpour of rain, and now it's bright and sunny. So yeah, really glad that I'm doing this job inside the garage. My beautiful girlfriend Kat has just arrived. She's brought the sunshine with her and a Costa coffee. And it's worth noting as well, although I've shown, you know, me changing a cam belt before on the channel, it's definitely one of the most common things that I get questions about. So I thought I may as well talk you through it this time as well. Although I will say, I'm not an expert, so if you're going to be doing a cam belt for the first time yourselves, then definitely do some other research. Don't just rely on what I'm doing. Anyway, next thing is to remove the little stud and nut down here near the crank sensor. And before we screw this timing pin in down there, we need to get the engine to TDC. So I'll take this rocker cover off. Here out the way, put the crank pulley bolt back in, turn the engine until this bar from the timing toolkit will go in the back of the cams, like that. And then we can screw this pin in where we just removed that stud and nut. It's so awkward with this exhaust manifold. A good test to see if the engine was actually bang on. To remove this one and then try and turn this, it shouldn't move at all, which it doesn't. Now I need to loosen the cam pulleys, and to do that you want to make sure that that tool's out anyway, because the ends of the cams can get broken otherwise. And there's a couple of flats on the camshafts here and here where you can put a spanner or mole grips to hold the cams while you undo the bolts holding the pulleys on. Now this cap here isn't very tight, but you will get a bit of oil coming out of it. I suppose because I haven't run Maude today, that's why loads of oil didn't come out of there, but if you have just run your engine, quite a lot does come out of there. Give this bracket a coat of black. It's got half a chance to dry before I put the car back together. Now this bolt in here is super tight. I think it's about 114 Newton meters. I'll look it up before I put the car back together, but you have to use a female Torx socket on it. Yeah. Make sure that's nice and loose. Don't have to take it all the way out. And put the Maude grips on the other cam. And this one isn't quite as tight. I think it's about 85 foot-pounds, which I think is about 60 odd Newton meters. Again, I will look it up before I put it back together. Now, I think I should have probably loosened the tensioner by now. It's nice and loose. Use the Maude grips to just move the cam slightly to get the bar in. That's one. That's two. Still got my ratchet on down there. Now what I'm going to do now, because I'm going to be changing this pulley for an adjustable vernier one, so I'm actually going to take this bolt all the way out and take this pulley off. So this is the Turbo Sport adjustable vernier pulley. It's still attached to the camshaft that came out of Esther, my Mk2 Escort. So yeah, I need to get it off of there. And I'll just put the Maude grips on that flat bit and just try and undo that bolt. Maude grips are slipping. Yes. Now this is still set to what Chris set it to on the dyno when Esther had her old engine in. As you can see, it's a few degrees advanced, whereas Esther's new engine, even though it's a completely stock ST170, the same as the old one, is a few degrees retard. But yeah, I'll set this back to 0, and then I'm probably going to set this to what Esther's new engine is, because the map that I've used on this as a base map is from Esther's new setup. And I think I've got a brand new camshaft bolt somewhere, so I'm going to see if I can dig that out. Yep, found it in my vast collection of Zetec spares. Got this from my friends at Burton Power. And there's the part number for anyone who's interested. And as always, I'll leave a link to the Burton Power website in the description. Throw a bit of Loctite on the bolt, just for good measure. I'm not going to do it up tight yet, obviously. I think I'll replace both of these pulleys. And I've left both of those pulleys loose for now because it can make it easier to put the cam belt on. But it's worth noting that this little tab goes in this square hole. So now we can throw on the new cam belt. And while we're sorting the belt out, we need to make sure that the bottom end is against its timing pin. So just lean the ratchet on there. And now because the cams are loose, it means you can set the tension and everything will stay in time. As long as that bottom one stays against the pin, and then you can tighten the cams up. Just do this pulley up a bit more, just to make sure that that tab stays in the square hole. Do it up and then back it off. This one can actually be done up all the way, but I'll just do it until it's tight and then I'll double check the Torx later. Put the Allen key in the tensioner and turn it anti-clockwise until the line on that bit where the tab is lines up with the slot of the other bit. So about there. And then you can do the bolt up, but keep an eye on it as you do because it kind of tries to move, so you have to keep a bit of tension on the Allen key. And as you can see, that little line is still in between that little slot. And then I'll nip up the cams tight enough so they don't slip, but don't torque them up at this stage. while the timing tool's still in the back of the cams. And then we can take the timing tools out. Oh, dropped it. Such a nightmare with this exhaust manifold. On Esther I've got a Piper exhaust manifold and it's so much easier. Hopefully one day I'll be able to afford a Piper exhaust manifold and system for this car. Anyway, with the timing tools removed, I'm now going to turn the engine over a couple of times. The cam belt tension still seems about right. Turn it over until the bar goes in, like that. And then put this pin back in the bottom end. And then we'll take the bar back out of the cams. And if this doesn't move, we know we've done it right. And it doesn't. Sweet. Now we can take the timing pin back out for the last time. Dropped it again. And I'll put this stud back in now, because if you forget to do that, you'll end up with an oily mess when you start the engine. So yeah, all I need to do now is torque everything up. So I'm just gonna have a quick look online to remind myself what all the torque should be. Here comes the rain again. Anyway, here are the torques that I found online. These are all in Newton meters. So the VVT pulley is 120. 120. The exhaust cam pulley is 68. 68. The tensioner for the cam belt is 24. 24. The idler for the cam belt is 25. 25. And the cap for the VVT pulley is 37. And that's this cap here. And 37. The crank pulley at the bottom, which I won't be doing until last, is 115. Yeah, I just noticed there's a lot of oil around here that's obviously got in through the rocker cover gasket. That's exactly what I found with Esther when I took her to the meet last week. Now the way I torque the rocker covers up, I start in the middle and then sort of work my way round like that. So maybe the back isn't getting torqued enough, so maybe I need to change my sequence, maybe sort of work in the middle but go like that instead. Yeah, seeing as both cars are doing it and both cars have got a brand new rocker cover gasket, it's probably something to do with the way I'm torquing it up. But anyway, I've cleaned all the oil out of there now. Gasket face is already nice and clean from when I first put the rocker cover on this engine, but just make sure there's no oil residue. Just lay that on there for now, I'll torque that up later. Now before I put everything back on the front of this engine, I want to replace that water pump. Just got 3 8mm bolts. It does have 4, but this one over here, I use a countersunk bolt like this, because that's where my idler pulley for the alternator belt mounts to. This might be a bit of a mission to pull off. Yep. In goes a new pump. I always find conflicting opinions on the torque of these little water pump bolts, so I'm just going to do them up by feel. Alright, now the day is fast running out, so I'm going to switch the camera off and bolt all the boring stuff back onto the engine. I need to torque down the rocker cover, refit the plugs and the HT leads, put the crank pulley on at the bottom there, but before I do that, I'm going to be putting this plastic cover on this time. And yeah, put the cover on up here, which is also the engine mount when it's on the Focus, hook up the alternator belt, all that sort of stuff. And then I'll see if I've got time to do what I plan to do next today. So I'll see you in a sec. And just like that, she is fully back together. Well, almost. Haven't hooked up the catch cam plumbing yet, or the cam sensor. Now I'm fast running out of daylight, but what I did plan to have a look at next involves the bike carbs. If you've been watching my videos, you'll know that the engine runs sweet, but when you really try and floor it, it just falls on its face, no power at all. And I think it might be actually to do with the jetting. And I know some of you guys commented in the past videos saying the same thing. These bike carbs currently have 160 main jets in them, and I've been on eBay and I've bought a set of 170s, which I'm going to try. I've also bought a full set of float bowl gaskets. Now, realistically, it's going to be a nightmare to change those jets with the carbs still attached to the engine, especially seeing as it's getting dark. So before it does get fully dark, I'm going to remove the bike carbs from the engine and take them home and replace the jets in the comfort of my living room. So yeah, it's really simple to remove the bike carbs. They're just attached to the inlet manifold with these silicone hoses and Jubilee clips. So I just need to undo them. I need to disconnect the throttle cable and the fuel pipes down there, and then I'll be able to lift the carbs off. So I'm going to crack on with that off camera and tidy up round here, and I'll catch back up with you when I get home. Alright, so back at home, and I've just had a delicious dinner that was prepared for me by my beautiful girlfriend Kat, and I've got the bike carbs on the workbench, which also sometimes doubles as a dinner table. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be switching out the jets, and while I'm at it, I'm going to replace the float bowl gaskets. So I'm just going to turn these upside down, and I just need to remove these float bowls, which are held on with these Allen key bolts. Alright, so the main jets are these ones here in the middle. I just need to unscrew them with a screwdriver. Now with that first one, the jet didn't unscrew, it actually unscrewed the whole thing, this holder, or I don't know what that's called, possibly an emulsion tube, I don't know. But yeah, it's got a hex on it, so I'll get a spanner on it there. Screw this thing in first, and then put the new jets in. Sweet, so now the new jets are in, I need to refit the bowls, but as I mentioned, I'm going to be replacing the gaskets. Now, I think I forgot to mention it on the channel before, but I did actually change the float bowl gaskets before, and I messed one of them up, even though I done it while I was here at home with the carbs upside down. One of the float bowls was leaking, and basically what happened is that the gasket, instead of being in its groove like this, part of it was sort of out of where it should be. I think it was this bit here, like that. It basically got destroyed. It was actually this one. What I ended up doing was reusing the best looking old gasket, and I used a bit of sealer in there. So I'm gonna dig this gasket back out and clean all the sealer off and start again, but I'm actually gonna put a little bit of sealer on all of the float bowls and then install the brand new gaskets. And then these three that are newish, I'll keep as spares for the future. So yeah, I'll take this outside, get the gasket out, clean it out with brake cleaner, and then I'll come back and reinstall the float bowls. Alright, so I've got that float bowl as clean as I'm going to be able to get it. When I did this before, I basically smeared sealer around the whole thing because I was using a gasket that had a few tiny hairline cracks in it. But because I'm going to be using brand new gaskets now, I think I'm just going to put a couple of strategic blobs just to hold the gasket in its groove. The only sealer I had in my garage was this CT1 that I put on Maude's sump recently. So yeah, really overkill for this. But as I say, I'm going to literally just put tiny blobs. Just squirt a little bit out onto this tissue. And use this cotton wool bud to get as little of it as I can. I think we'll just do like the corners basically. Right, changed my mind, decided to send it. Put the sealer all the way around. It is only a thin smear still though. I think I'll just leave it upside down, like that. And leave it for a bit before I actually fit it to the carbs. But yeah, that's staying in its groove much better now. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the other three float bowls. Alright, so that's all four of them done now. I'm just going to double check that there's no sealer on the inside here. I did sort of clean them all with brake cleaner, but I'll give them all another clean before I put them on the carbs. And yeah, gaskets staying put now. All right, that is it. Job's a good one. New jets are in, new gaskets are on. I've had a close look this time to see if I can see the gasket poking out anywhere, and it all looks good. But yeah, with that sealer, it's definitely a lot easier because the gasket stays in the right place. I just need to get these carbs bolted back onto Maude's ST170 engine and see if those jets improve things when I really step on the throttle. I've got a feeling they are going to improve things, to be honest, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I've got stuff to do tomorrow and the next day, and then I'm going back to work the day after that. So I'm going to have to wait a few days to see if these jets are going to make a difference. So I'm going to end this video here, and you'll have to find out in a future video whether these jets have improved things. If you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media and my website. I'll also leave my email address down there for anyone who wants to contact me. Massive thanks to each and every one of you for your continued support on my channel. But other than that, until next time, from me and my beautiful girlfriend Kat, thanks for watching.